Hello, and welcome to SimTune. This video is a brief overview of the SimTune software. I emphasize brief because the last attempt I made at making this video, it turned out way too long. So we'll really just skim the surface, and I just really want to make sure that you are able to see the features that SimTune provides so that you can then customize your own learning environment and you can get started with learning PID tuning with SimTune. So first we'll talk about what SimTune is and what it offers. The primary purpose of SimTune is to provide a simulation environment of common process control scenarios, specifically, like I said, for tuning PID controllers. So some of the tools that it includes, in fact the main one, is this library of training modules. So we have different process control scenarios such as a simple flow, a simple level, flows in parallel, levels in series, cascaded level control, each one getting a little more difficult and applying different PID tuning principles. We can even open one up so we can just get a brief look at what the interface looks like, but we'll come back to talk about that later. Each of these training modules is accompanied by a lesson manual. The lesson manual talks about the PID tuning principles specific to tuning a controller in the process control scenario of that training module. For example, this is of a simple flow controller. And at the end, it provides learning exercises where you can put into practice the principles that it talks about within the training module. Other manuals that are included are the SimTune user manual. This one talks or addresses specifically the features of the user interface. So it doesn't talk as much about the PID tuning principles, but if you're new to SimTune, it's a good way to look up how to do certain things. The PID tuning guide, we can even just open it up. It talks about the details of the PID equation, or at least an overview. It also includes tuning rules, or calculations that are used to calculate tuning parameters. What we highly recommend, though, is this method that is included at the end called Dale's closed-loop PI tuning technique. Dale Smith is the founder of APCO, but that's not why we're recommending it. Really, this is a very practical PID tuning technique for tuning a PID controller on a live process, because the steps it takes really allows you to tune the PID controller without requiring too much disturbance of the process, doing too many step changes or things like that. It's really a very practical, safe, and actually easy method to incorporate. Another great thing about this is this What's This tool. If you're new to SimTune, you can just come here into this mode and click on an object in the interface, and it will bring up a description of what that object does. Or if you're in somewhere like the controller configuration, where you have a bunch of controller parameters, you can do the same thing by clicking this button. Now that you're in What's This mode, you can click on here, and it will provide more information about what you clicked on, in this case, the controller gain. This information is also included, maybe even with more detail, in the SimTune user manual. The additional tools that SimTune provides are things like the historical trends and the process model identifier, which are very cool tools that I really enjoy using. We'll talk about those in a different video, though. Really, to just wrap this up, I like to come back to the simulation environment and just kind of show the different things that you can do. Really, you should just feel free to play around with different buttons and see what they do, because SimTune is built to give the user flexibility to customize their learning interface. So, for example, if you want to look specifically at the trend, you can click that button and you just see the trend view. Or if you want to see the HMI or SimGraphic view, you can do that. So I recommend when you first get going with SimTune, just try out this toolbar and find out what each button does and find what you prefer. Another thing, if I can put this back, and we can also open up this trend legend, configure the line parameters. We might as well just get the simulation going. We can change the plots. We can change the number of plots. You can change the sim speed, things like this. So definitely just fiddle around with it, get used to what you can do. And I just feel like when you get more familiar with the interface, you're a lot more able to focus on learning PID tuning principles rather than trying to figure out how to use the interface. Another thing you can do is you can change your process parameters. So let's say we want to make this more of a flow. We'll make it a little faster, actually quite a bit faster. And as you can see, I mean, we are running at a faster simulation speed, but even so, you can see that our process is a faster process compared to the one that it originally was. Also, if you come here, you can configure your PID controller with different parameters. One of the main things we like to offer is different forms of the PID equation. And that's important because each form has its unique characteristics that you need to take into account when tuning the PID controller with that equation. For example, if you come to equation A, you might have seen that the equation changed a little bit. If you come here after choosing any equation, you can see more details or more of an explanation of what's different about that equation, as well as the equation parameters right here. Also, just the faceplate. If you are brand new to PID tuning, then I highly recommend using the lesson manuals. For example, you are able to control your controller from the faceplate, things like that. So we've changed the set point, we've changed the output by changing it to manual mode, things like that. The last thing I'd like to talk about is adding disturbances, because I feel like this is a great feature in SimTune. So if we click on this icon here, which is related to, it's measuring and controlling the flow in this simulation, we can add a disturbance by either pushing or pulling that process value. Okay? You can see that the process value went up or down. And since we're in manual, the controller didn't do anything. But if we put it in auto, the controller now has to try and get this value back to set point based on or in response to that disturbance. So if we change it again, you can see that the controller has to make adjustments. So it's a great way to test your tuning parameters. And finally, you can do the same thing but automatically, or configure it to do it automatically by configuring a disturbance signal. And so when I click update, this signal that I'm configuring right here with these parameters, which are explained in the user manual, this signal will be embedded on the process value. And then your controller will have to try to mitigate the effects of those disturbances. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about in this overview. Hopefully it was quicker than last time. But like I said, just when you get here, play around with it. But if you're brand new to either SimTune or PID tuning, I highly recommend taking a look at the manuals and see what's available in there. And I hope you enjoy your learning experience with SimTune and that it can help you in your goals. And also I hope to hear from you in the future. Thanks.